Chances are you are doing most things like everyone else, which okay is cool, but I know you want more out of life. My name is Charlie. It's really nice to meet you. And yeah, I have a ton of unconventional advice, stuff I did in my 20s to help me get to where I am today. I run a few different companies. I have over 60 people on my team. I live a pretty fantastic life, and everything I do has been to be a little bit different. I know you want to do things a little bit differently too, and you're probably fed a ton of very generic traditional advice. I'm here to tell you that you don't need to, and you shouldn't follow traditional rules if you want to live an amazing life. So I'm going to take you through 15 pieces of very unconventional advice, things that you don't hear from most people, and I guarantee you it's going to help you tremendously. All right, let's get started. Number one is spend 2 hours per day learning random things, whether it be how to train for a triathlon, how to create a website, how to do marketing, how to write effective copy, economics, content creation, recipes for healthy meals. Really, the list goes on. Now, I did this all throughout my 20s. I still do it now in my 30s. And a lot of people would ask me, why are you wasting so much of your time? Looking back, knowing how the world works and being able to have a bunch of skills really opens doors for so many new opportunities. What you should do is go read books, participate on forums, watch YouTube videos, all to enrich your brain with new things. A lot of people will tell you that this is just wasting your time, but I think being curious and actually learning how the world works will have a massive impact on your overall success. Plus, ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance sucks. And the more you know about the world, the better prepared you are for it. All right, next is you want to find your partner before you get rich. The key word here is before. When you do this, you're more likely to find someone that shares your values, your work ethic, and other important traits like that. It's much easier to find someone like this while you are still on the grind, because trust me, once you're rich, finding a really compatible partner gets a lot more difficult. I've been with my partner ever since we were both completely broke, so I know she's not in it for the money. She's also rich now too, so she knows that I'm not in it for the money as well. Yeah, I'm very happy that our relationship was not clouded by money. But yeah, I will say that if you are rich, it is easier to find someone that is more traditionally attractive, but there are so many new variables that come with wealth, and you want to be sure that your partner is with you for the right reasons. Looks fade, but values and intellect, those are what stick. All right, next is you want to invest when no one else is investing. Basically, if you buy a stock or crypto when everyone is talking about it and there's a lot of hype around it, then it's too late. A lot of the gains are already built into the current price. What you want to do instead is buy things when it's boring to buy them. Meaning, if you told your friend that you just bought a ton of Bitcoin when it was flat at around $19,000 in 2022, they'd be uninterested and they'd also be a little bit confused on why you did it. But looking back, that would have been a fantastic time to buy. So yeah, not only should you invest early, but you should invest in things that are boring at the time. I know that personally, I would have made a ton more money if I had done this. So yeah, now I buy things when it's boring, and I also buy very boring securities such as index funds, mutual funds, things that track the whole S&P 500. It's not sexy per se, but historically, if you look at the data, it's the right move. The next piece of uncommon advice I have for you is to join a really expensive gym. I know a lot of people are gonna absolutely flame me for saying this, but you should absolutely splurge on your gym because the types of people that you're gonna meet will have a huge impact on your personal growth as well as your business connections. So personally, I pay about $360 per month for my Equinox gym membership. I know that seems absolutely insane, and trust me, I do think it is insane, but the people, friends, and connections that I've made while at Equinox have far surpassed my gym membership dues. And since I'm spending a considerable amount of time at the gym, about $10 a day I think is actually pretty reasonable. I've been at all types of gyms, LA Fitness, 24-hour fitness, I've tried Lifetime, Equinox, and trust me, the environment that you put yourself in has such a big impact. And that's why I think everyone, if you can, try to splurge on this. I know it's something that's not necessary. There are tons of gyms for $30 that give you the exact same weights as a $300 gym. I guarantee you the people that you meet are going to be on a different level. Again, don't flame me for this. I used to think that an expensive gym was dumb, but once I actually personally experienced it and personally experienced the benefits, it's now just a complete no-brainer. Okay, next is you need to be a little bit selfish. I know today, especially with the woke culture and all that stuff, it's generally frowned upon to act in your own interests. But I'm telling you guys, you do need to be a little bit selfish because you and only you are responsible for you. By you, I mean your relationships, your friendships, your wins, your losses, everything. If everything that you do is just for other people, then you're doing yourself a huge disservice. So for example, in my life, my parents wanted me to become a doctor. I knew that becoming a doctor is great. You're helping people. And on a scale of different jobs, being a doctor, you're actually seeing the people that you help and you can actually really impact lives, right? For me, I knew that I never really wanted to become a doctor. I can't even look at blood without wanting to faint. And so after I didn't get into med school, I was a little bit selfish. I was like, what do I actually want to do with my life? And does it involve medicine? For me, it wasn't. So that's when I started doing a bunch of other things, trying to build my businesses. And that for me, you guys, was a huge turning point in my life. I am forever grateful that I chose to do that. And it really comes come down to, being a little bit selfish, not doing something that other people wanted me to do or that was looked upon super favorably in society. Rather, I chose to do what I wanted, and I hope that you can do something like that as well. Okay, next is stop being a cheap. For the longest time, I was probably the most frugal person that any of my friends knew. In fact, it was super bad. I had a lot of money anxiety. I never wanted to spend any money. And while that did have some benefits, I think the overall effect that it had on my 20s was limiting growth. What I mean by this is, yes, if you save money, it is good, but there definitely needs to be a balance. And I would say that I was on an extreme end where I was thinking about saving money constantly, and I was spending more mental energy on saving money than I was on actually figuring out how to make money. For example, I'd spend 15 minutes routing to a different gas station to save a few dollars on gas. It stressed me out, and I could have basically spent that energy figuring out a lot more important things. It also resulted in me, investing less into myself, taking less risks with my money, and just overall being a little bit more unpleasant to be around just due to how cheap I was. So I'd say that if you are in your 20s or 30s or whatever and you're extremely cheap, know that there are some good parts about that, but you need to tone it down. Money that's saved is money that's not being used to make money. And yeah, I know a lot of people, they'll just be like, save your money, put it in your bank accounts, don't do anything with it, invest it, whatever. But I'm here to say that you should not be a cheap. Go out there, actually use your money for things, be smart with it, and I guarantee you that's going to result in a lot of positive financial gain for you. Okay, next is stop working hard, because working hard alone is not going to make you rich. It's just going to ensure that you work a lot. I know this because I have a lot of friends. I know there's a lot of jobs out there where you can work extremely hard, but the financial gain is not there. For me, I work to make money, right? I want to work as little as possible. I want to work smart, and I want that work in exchange to pay for my life and allow me to do things that I actually want to do. The traditional school system teaches us to work really hard, and that any input of hard work results in a good amount of financial gain. And that's just not true. It sort of is true up until a certain point. But if you want to really live an untraditional, unconventional life that is extraordinary, you cannot trade your time for money always. If your goal is to get rich, you need to figure out a way to disconnect your time from how much money you make. You cannot know what your hourly rate is, because that means you're trading your time for money. And yes, you can get rich, being a high-paying doctor or lawyer or whatever it is. But in my opinion, you'll never be truly wealthy or rich because you're always having to trade your time for more money. There's only a certain amount of leverage you can have when you do a job like that. So I think your priority should be to figure out how you can work really smartly, how you can find the highest paying skills, turn that into a business, and disconnect your time from how much money you bring in. The next piece of advice is to stop listening to theorists. Basically, these are people with a ton of advice, knowledge, or a title, but no actual results. So for example, this could be like a business professor that's at a college teaching how to start a business, even though they have never done that themselves. And yes, this happens a lot. An out of shape fitness instructor, a life coach that hasn't gotten it figured out. Yeah, there's just too many people in this world that you can choose to hire or listen to, where yes, it does make sense to be selective, and you should absolutely be selective. For example, if the type of life that I live is not something that you want, and trust me, I think a lot of people don't want my life, then you should absolutely not listen to me. But if you look at my life and you think, okay, I think that's pretty cool, I want something just like that or whatever, then yes, I do think that there are some benefits in listening to what I have to say, because everything I talk about, I've done myself or I've actually put into practice. I'm not saying you can't learn anything from someone that hasn't actually done the things they're teaching, but I think there is nuance to it. I think there's less weight on information you learn from someone that isn't actually doing it. And these days, information is literally everywhere, right? And I think most people will take information more seriously if it's coming from someone that's done it rather than someone that's just learned it. The next piece of advice I want to say is stop using the V word. By the V word, I mean victim, because I think being a victim is the last thing anyone should do. When you play the victim, essentially what you are saying to the world is, boo, it wasn't my fault and I'm not taking accountability for this. This is the easiest thing that anyone can do to make themselves feel better about anything. And I get why a lot of people do it. I've even done this in the past, but today I actively think, Charlie, you cannot ever be the victim, because once you think you're the victim, you've already lost. That's why I said that everything about you is on you. You have the ability to control everything in your life, how you perceive things, how you do things, whatever it is. Yeah, basically just remove this word from the vocabulary and stay away from people that are like that. Okay, the next one I want to say is try therapy. This is something that a lot of people absolutely hate, especially those more alpha like entrepreneurs that think you should just take all your emotions and stuff them in a jar and never talk about emotions or communicate and things like that. When I tell people that I do therapy, I've been doing it every single week for 2-3 years, I get mixed responses. Some people are like, okay, you must be trying to fix something. And some people are like, oh, that's really awesome. Yeah, I think overall, a lot of people are like, why is Charlie doing therapy? That seems like something that he wouldn't have to or want to do. They're right in one of those, right? I don't really want to do therapy. It does take time. It takes me getting out of my comfort zone. But I understand that if I want to get good at something, especially communication, emotions, things that I was raised not being good at, I need to talk about it on a consistent, regular basis. And so yeah, all my therapy, it's not really trying to fix anything per se. It's more proactive. And I think a lot of people should take this approach when it comes to being okay doing therapy. I guarantee you, every single person that's watching this video has a lot of things to sort of unravel in their life. These can be traumas, these can be different emotions, these can be different situations. There's a lot you can learn about yourself just by talking about someone else. And yes, I know therapy can be pretty expensive. I know I'm in a privileged space to be able to afford it, but you can even talk to ChatGPT now. You can train ChatGPT to be your therapist. There's a lot of other low cost options. So I do recommend, if this is something that you want to get better at, you just need to do it on a regular basis. Try some type of therapy. The next piece of unconventional advice I have for you is to chase. Basically, the more something sucks, the better it is for you. And you might have heard this quote before, but the magic you're looking for is basically just in the things you're avoiding. The reason why we avoid things is because they're hard, they suck, and that's why we don't do them. Instead, we try and figure out other things that, are less painful, less sucky, and do those things instead. But that's just basically procrastination, and you're doing that to avoid doing the sucky thing. Working 3 hours straight in deep work sucks, but it's something that you need to do. Running 3 miles sucks, but it's great for you. How I like to look at it is the more something is, the less percentage of people are actually going to be able to do it. And the less people that actually do something means that if you do that thing, you're at a huge advantage. And that's why for me, I like to look for things that other people probably don't want to do. And I know that if I do them, it's going to allow me to live a more untraditional life. It's going to give me results that most people don't get simply because they don't have the willpower to have that input. And yeah, it does make you different because most people, they just aren't going to do it. So please do more things that suck. Trust me, I never want to get into an ice bath and freeze my off for 3 minutes, but I know it's good for me both physically and mentally, and that's why I do it. So please do more things that suck. Next, this took a lot of time for me to realize, but you need to write down. If you don't write something down, you are going to forget. I learned this the hard way because I used to read a ton of books. I would never take notes. And I'd find that, yes, it still does influence your mindset, which is good, but it's very, very difficult to actively recall the facts and things that you learn. And so now every time I learn something that I think is important, I take out my phone, I have the notes app, and I literally write it down. Once I do that, every week or so, I'm going to go through those notes, reread those things. And that's basically how I take information from the back of my brain, really important things that I've learned, and put them at the front. When they're at the front, that's when you can actually act on them. That's when you can actually recall them. And that's when you can actually turn them into real action. Especially with the amount of information these days, you're going to learn a lot of things every single day. Not everything you need to write down because I don't think everything is that important, but there are going to be things that really stick out that can actually have an impact on your life. And that's when I recommend writing those things down. A lot of people will say that it's a waste of time to do this and that you don't actually need to do it to remember things. But nah, I think they're completely wrong. You need to write things down. The next piece of advice I have for you is to stop chasing money and rather you should chase skills. When you're in your 20s, chasing money means you have the wrong motive for getting rich. It's more of like a short-term thing. And yes, you can do things that can make you some money, but usually those things are not very long-lived. They're selfish. They don't really add too much value to the world. And yeah, they're just not sustainable. So I think everyone should put great emphasis on chasing skills while they're young instead of just chasing the money. What I've learned is that if you chase skills and build up a lot of great high-value skills, your potential for making money is just going to go through the roof. You don't need to be a millionaire at the age of 23, 24, whatever. And I think that the people that get extremely wealthy or live really interesting lives, they spend their 20s learning a ton of different things, getting really good at things, and then taking that, turning it into value creation, doing that value creation at scale somehow with a business or company. And that is how they get extremely, extremely wealthy. I actually spent the first half of my 20s not making that much money. Instead, I was building up a lot of skills. Yes, I did jobs and side hustles to make money at the time, but the best thing I got from those things was actually the skills that I was learning. And that's essentially what allowed me to build my businesses today and actually, reach some type of financial success. Okay, so talking about skills, the next piece of advice relates to one skill in particular that I think everyone needs to learn. I think it's the most important skill that you can have. That skill, you guys, is marketing. This is the most important skill that most people don't want to learn or just don't learn in general. But being in the entrepreneurship world for the last 10 plus years now, I've learned that marketing is the most important skill that you need to absolutely learn. In my mid-20s, when I started my first, real business, it was a clothing company that I eventually lost a ton of money on. I spent all of my time doing things that I wanted to do, like the pictures, the actual clothes, going to the factories, building my website, things like that. And these things, while they are important, none of them compare remotely closely to marketing. And that's the only thing that I did not do. This business failed solely because I did not market correctly. I did not spend most of my time on the actual marketing. I spent it on things that were more comfortable for me to do, but didn't actually push the needle, which, in a clothing business is getting sales. If you want to start a business at some point in your life, or if you already have a business, marketing is the most important thing that you will do as a CEO. Anyone can have a good service, but not anyone can actually get enough clients to where a business is sustainable and grows. And so what I recommend doing is just read a ton of books about marketing, understand social media because that is a huge component of marketing. Basically, take a piece of paper, write down marketing is very important, post it somewhere that you see every single day. And yeah, I think a lot of people, they'll say that marketing is important, but they don't stress that it's the most important thing that you need to do. I'm never gonna make that mistake ever again. I know that every single business I do, I am in charge of marketing, and I'm gonna spend most of my brain power actually figuring out how to get my service or product or whatever it is in front of other people. The last piece of advice I have for you is to brainwash yourself into loving fitness. Now, if you're a guy and you're watching this video, I think being in top physical condition is so important. It's pretty much the only thing you can get without having it handed to you or without just paying money for it, right? So yeah, with cars or nice things, people can just buy it. They don't need to actually literally trade blood, sweat, and tears for it. If I see someone in top physical shape, I know for a fact that this person has invested a ton of resources, time, and energy into their body. You can't buy a six-pack. You can't buy a 315-pound squat. These are things that you actually need to work hard for, and there's a lot of value in that. I know that fitness is hard, and a lot of people, they don't prioritize it in their life. Yeah, realistically, not everyone is going to enjoy working out just naturally. And so I always tell people, do whatever you can to brainwash yourself, because if you can brainwash yourself into actually loving fitness, you're gonna live longer, you're gonna look better, you're gonna feel better, you're gonna be a higher performer in everything that you do, and you are going to just respect yourself more. How you brainwash yourself is gonna be different for every single person watching this video, but I will say you need to exercise at least 3 to 5 times per week. And it should be a balance of physical as well as cardio strength. Oh, and you should also stretch as well, because that's something that I started doing not too long ago, and I really, really wish I started doing it when I was in my early 20s. So in summary, everything that we talked about in this video is a little bit different than what most people say, but if you do all these things, the end result should be a better you. A very important thing in life that I've learned is to stop comparing yourself to other people, instead just comparing yourself to you the day before. If you do this, you're gonna prioritize your own self-growth rather than just comparing yourself to other people. Because yeah, when it comes down to it, the only one that you should be competing against is your old self. And if you can beat your old self every single day, you're gonna be more fulfilled, you'll be better, and yeah, you'll probably just be living a better life in general. Everything that we talked about also helps you get more lucky, because everyone that's extremely rich or has done well has gotten very, very lucky. But the concept of luck and actually getting lucky is actually super in your own hands. You are in control of this. And the general consensus that I've learned is that the more unconventional you are, the more luck is placed into your life. The reason why most people aren't lucky is because they don't do things that are unconventional. They do things just like everyone else. And when you do things like everyone else, how can you expect to get lucky? Anyways, I hope this video was helpful. I know we talked about a lot of different things, so I encourage you to maybe grab a notebook, write down these things, take a look at them every single day, and hopefully this can make you live a more unconventional life. I know my experiences and advice, it's not for everyone, but I know some of you watching this video, you're really going to click with the things I had to say, and hopefully it can steer your life into a more unconventional path and just give you more fulfillment and happiness in your life. If you got any value from the video, make sure to leave a comment, like this video, subscribe. I do a ton of content about entrepreneurship, self-improvement, finances, things like that. My whole goal is to help you live a financially successful and rewarding life. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.